Welcome to the Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show, where we make plant-based cooking easy. I'm Jill, and today we are going to make my version of a Hostess cupcake that is gluten-free, sugar-free, and oil-free.
Grab a plate, 'cause it's the all-free whole food plant-based cooking show.
Hello everybody. Boy, do I have a treat for you today. We are going to make these like copycat Hostess cupcakes. And this idea all came from my husband. This was a very fond memory of his as a child, eating Hostess cupcakes. I wasn't into that kind of thing as a kid. My mom never bought that kind of thing, but we're gonna do this for him. So we are just gonna jump right in and get started. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. So we are going to start with the frostings part because we're going to want to get those into the refrigerator and setting up while our cupcakes are baking. So we're going to start with the chocolate, and if you want the printable recipe with all the full details and the measurements, it'll be in a link in the details below. So I'm going to start with my NutriBullet here with the smaller cup. This is 3/4 of a cup of pitted decadent dates. You can use medjool, whatever kind of dates you have, just roughly 3/4 of a cup. 1/4 cup cocoa powder. 1/3 of a cup of water. And a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And this is going to be that top coating of chocolate that is typical to this Hostess cupcake. It's really dark chocolate, super delicious. So now we're just going to blend this until it's really smooth. Okay, let's check this out. See if all the dates are pulverized. And they are. That looks pretty good. I think that's probably good enough. So we'll get all of that off of there. Okay, now we are going to move to the vanilla frosting, but I need to rinse off my blade first. Okay, so on to our vanilla frosting. And what I have here is 1 cup of cashews and 1/3 of a cup of decadent dates. If you don't have cashews or if you have an allergy, you can also use almonds. They work just as well. So I'm going to use a bigger size of container because this is a little bit more in volume. And these cashews and dates, I soaked them together for about 2 hours because you want this vanilla filling, frosting, whatever we're going to call that. You want it to be really creamy, so it's better to soak your cashews and dates first. Then we have, how much water here? 1/2 cup of water and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. See, it's such simple ingredients and it's all whole food. No refined sugars, no oils, just a good whole food healthy fat. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to blend this until it's super creamy. Okay, there we go. That is our super creamy vanilla frosting or filling. That's going to go in the center of the cupcake. So we're going to set those aside. I'm going to put lids on them and then get them into the refrigerator while our cupcakes are cooking. Move this stuff out of the way a little bit. Okay, so I put my frostings into the refrigerator and rinsed off my blade because we're going to do all of this just with our NutriBullet today. All right, so for the cupcakes, we are going to start with 1 cup of rolled oats, organic rolled oats here. We're just going to make a very simple flour, and be sure not to overgrind your oats. If you overgrind your oats, your cupcakes are going to be really super dense. So we're just going to lightly blend them. Okay, so that was probably, I don't know, 15 to 20 seconds in the blender. It's not very long. Okay, we're going to toss that in the bowl. And then we have a half a cup of almond flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and a half teaspoon of baking soda. That's going to be our leavening agents. That's what's going to make these cupcakes rise. And then a half a cup of cocoa powder. Okay, we're just going to whisk those together before we get on to the wet ingredients that are going to go in here. And I like to use a whisk because the almond flour sometimes has, you know, little clumps in it. And you kind of need to break them up, or else you're going to have all these little white specks all over in your little cupcakes, which, you know, it doesn't matter. But if you're looking for, you know, that appeal, you want to get those little chunks ground out of there. Okay, now we're going to mix up all the wet ingredients, and I'm just going to use the same container, even though it has still a little oat pulp left in there. That is okay, because it's all the same. So you have 1/3 cup of pitted decadent dates, 1.5 cups of soy milk, and you can use whatever plant milk you choose, but make sure it's unsweetened, because most of the plant milks that are out there are sweetened, and they're usually sweetened with refined sugars, so you don't really want that in there. We're going to sweeten with the dates. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay, we're just going to blend this until the dates are completely pulverized. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we just need to mix these together. And then you're going to need to get yourself a muffin tin, and you can, if you have just a regular tin, you can line it with the cupcake papers. This is a silicone one, which is super handy because it's a stiff frame, but then the compartments are flexible, so you can push them out really easily. The batter doesn't stick to it. I'll give you a link in the details below for this guy. I think it's just fantastic. That was something that suggestion from Chef AJ when I went on her show. It's kind of a fun little thing. All right, so now we're just going to mix these two together. And just like before, you want to get it mixed up pretty well so you don't have any little chunks of that almond flour in there that are white. This is going to be super, super chocolatey. Okay. Now we need to fill these. Grab a spoon here. So you want to fill the muffin tins up somewhere between like 2/3 and 3/4 full, which is a little bit tricky, but we can do it. And since these are whole food ingredients, they don't rise quite the same as if you were using like a refined white flour. They'll rise a lot more because the whole food ingredients are very, very heavy. And it takes a lot of oomph to get these guys to rise. So it's not going to be a super tall, fluffy muffin, but it will be just right. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to have about 9 cupcakes here. think I'm just going to use the rest of the batter here to fill these up a little bit more. So that's pretty good, 9 cupcakes. Okay, I'm going to finish scooping this out and filling these up, and then I'm going to stick them in the oven, which I said before is on 350, and they're going to go in there for 20 minutes. While we're waiting for that, I'd like to share with you some background on our show. The Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show is crowd-funded, which means these free weekly recipe videos, along with our entire catalog of recipes on our website, plantbasedcookingshow.com, and our new Plant-Based Cooking Made Easy cookbook are all made possible in part by the generous patronage of our supporting members. By becoming a supporting member, you gain access to great member perks like monthly product giveaways, free downloads of our ebooks, and access to our in-depth courses, including our 28 Days Plant-Based Made Easy course, where we offer a step-by-step guide to making the switch to a fully plant-based diet. We create this show for the hundreds of thousands of viewers just like you who tune in each month from all over the world to make it easy for everyone to live a plant-based lifestyle. So if you love our content, please join us on our mission and become a supporting member today by following the link in the description. Okay, let's get back to the show. Okay, these guys are completely cooled, so they got finished baking. I set them on the rack, just still in the pan for a few minutes, and then I popped them out and let them cool completely just on their own, so it gets nice and dry on the outside so we can handle them. If you leave them in that cupcake tin, while the whole time they're cooling, they're going to get a little bit of moisture in there, and they're going to get a little bit gummy. So you want to really get those popped out of there before we go on to this stage. So this is kind of the fun stage. So if you know anything about the Hostess cupcake, it's filled with this creamy middle, right? So how are we going to get that in there? Instead of just, like on the baking shows, if you see them, they just poke a hole and they just pipe it in there. Well, these, because this isn't a refined flour thing, you don't have all those extra little air pockets in there, so we have to carve it out. So what I'm doing, I'm just going to carve out my knife kind of towards the center, and I'm going at like a 45-degree angle, just so we can get a little cup pulled out of there. And I'm going to plop this into my bowl here. Okay. So if you want to come in and take a look, this is about how much I carve out of there. And that's according to you. If you like a lot of cream in the center of these guys, you can scoop out even a little bit more. But this seems to be kind of the perfect medium. So I'm going to do one more so you can see. So a 45-degree angle towards the center. Just keep going around in a circle, keep turning, and save that in your bowl. So a little tidbit here, you know what you can do with the center of this stuff. I like to just crumble it up a little bit. I put it in a Tupperware container and keep it in my fridge, and then I add it to our nice cream at night. Ooh, so it's like little brownie chunks. It's so good. All right, so I'm just going to show you these. I'm going to frost a couple. So you're going to need either a piping bag, or you can use just a regular Ziploc bag, and you'll just be cutting off the tip of this. But you're going to need a couple because we're going to do a couple different things with this. So the first one is going to need a little bit of a wider opening because this is just what we're going to squirt the cream into the centers of these with. So it doesn't have to be quite so precise. So now to fill up this bag. So a little tip is if you roll it down about halfway, pull out the center, and you kind of hold it under that fold like that. And that's going to prevent you from getting all of this up here full of frosting, and when you try to push it all together, you're just going to be a mess. It's a little messy anyway, but this helps you to not be quite such a mess. So we're just going to scoop that out. And our frosting here, it's been in the oven, it's been in the refrigerator for probably, an hour or so. I'm just gonna keep scooping that in there until we get all of this. But you wanna leave just a little bit. Probably like a half scoop worth. Okay, I'm gonna set that down. Then we're gonna take our other little Ziploc bag. And if you don't have a piping bag too, you can also use parchment paper. There's all kinds of little tutorials on YouTube on how to make a piping bag with that. So if you want to use parchment paper rather than a plastic bag, that's a way to go too. Okay, so I'm gonna get out the rest of this frosting. See how we have, a good half scoop or so. Put that down in there. I'm gonna try to get out a little bit more. I don't want to waste any of that delicious frosting. Okay. Because that is going to be for the secret little thing in the end. So we're just going to set that aside. I'm going to close the top, get all the air bubbles out of there. Set that aside. Okay. So now with the piping bag, you just flip that back up. See, there's no frosting on there. Work it down to the tip. And see how big that opening is? It's pretty wide. And we're just gonna squirt that into the cupcakes. And you just wanna come up to the top. You don't wanna go too far over the top because we still have another layer of the chocolate frosting that's going on the top. Okay, set that aside over here. It's gonna be a little messy. Okay, so this, because it's mounded up a little bit, we kind of want it to be flat. You can just hold it kind of firmly, tap it down on the counter, and it kind of levels out a little bit. Do that with my other one. It just makes it a little bit easier to work with when we go on to our next stage. So there's our chocolate stuff. That's our chocolate topping. So you're just going to take that topping and frost it. You're just frosting the top of this. So you just put a nice decent glob there. That might be a little too much. Or if you're listening to my husband, he always says, put more chocolate, more chocolate. And you want to just gently frost the top so that you don't get that white mixed in. Okay, there you go. Let's do the other one too. Show you again. And you're just going to have to kind of guesstimate as you go for how much frosting you have here so that you make sure you have enough to get all 9 of these cupcakes covered. There we go. Nice and smooth. Okay, now on to the final little thing. So if you've ever seen a Hostess cupcake, you know they have that little swirl on the top. And really, it's just like loop, 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 loop. And I think there's like 4 little loops. This is just an extra little fancy thing. And it's so fun for those little kitties. You know, if you got little kids that make sure you get rid of that little piece of plastic there so it doesn't get in your food. This just makes it look a little bit more fun, right? So we're just gonna go in here. You gotta make that cut in the tip really small so you can do your little curly loop, 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 loop. Oh, it's so fun. I mean, would you look at that? Come in here and look at that darling little cupcake. Is that adorable or what? I just love it. We'll do one more. Loop, 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 loop. All right. All right, so I'm gonna finish these up and then I'll meet you at the table for a taste. Oh, goody goody, it's time to taste. I wish you could be here to taste this, but you're just gonna have to watch me eat it. Oh, these are so amazing. Look at that. Oh, and there's only 8 left. What am I gonna do? Oh my gosh. You're gonna love these. So you can store these in a fridge in an airtight container, and they'll last you a good, maybe a week in the refrigerator, but they're not gonna last that long. Or if it's just you, you could even put these in the freezer so that, you know, you just pop one out every other day for yourself or every day. Be sure to give this a like, and I'll see you guys next week.